everyone. I'm here today with Greg Palmer, the host of Finovate, and we're here to get his read on the industry and the books he's been reading lately. So, Greg, what's your read?
Sure. So, we just came off the back of Finovate Spring. We're looking at what's happening right now in 2025. Obviously, there are so many factors that are giving people pause and raising legitimate concerns about where the financial services industry is headed. My read on it is that now is the time to focus on where you can actually help people. So many of the decisions that I see people making from the banking side come down to how can we get more customers into the funnel more quickly? How can we make sure that we eliminate sources of risk? Those are both really good ideas. But the really big picture piece that we're not spending enough time thinking about as an industry is how can we help people? Where are there people who are struggling? What can we do that is legitimately going to make people's lives easier? Not necessarily improve our own profit margin, improve our own efficiency, but really looking at how can I make an impact? This is where the next generation of banking customers are going to be won or lost. It's going to all come down to how am I helping you? How am I making your life better? What am I doing for you that other people aren't doing? And so that's the really high level. It's time to focus on making customers happy, making people's lives better. And this is the path to long-term success.
Yeah, I just came back from the Financial Health Network's Emerge conference as well. And obviously that was a key theme there is how do we help people with financial health and wellness? And it doesn't always have to be like crazy things. It can be small incremental steps, but you just have to do it, right? So what do you think is some of the easiest actionable things that folks can tackle first?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is just to find ways to demonstrate that you're in it on behalf of your customers. I think many people view their financial institution as sort of an adversarial relationship, right? If this bank is doing a service for me, but if I step out of line, I'm going to face a penalty or I'm going to face some sort of fee for doing something that I need to do in terms of moving my money where it needs to go. Obviously banks are for-profit institutions, but at the same time, there's a way that you can be a for-profit institution and still create the perception that you are on the same side as your customers, that your customers can trust you. And I think this is one of the things which it can start really small, demonstrating that you understand who your customer is, that you understand what challenges they're facing, and that you can give them a little bit of grace when they need it. I was at a conference, it was actually the MX conference a couple of years ago, where I heard a banker talking about the change in interest rates and how that made it difficult for his bank to compete. It was a smaller bank. And he said, we would hope that we would have a little bit of loyalty from our customers. We aren't able to offer as high of an interest rate as some of these online competitors because so much of the debt that we have is already accounted for at a lower interest rate, which limits the ability of us to kind of match what's out there. So, I hope that our customers will bear with us while we're not able to offer them the best rate that some of our others will. My question to that person was, well, what do you do when the shoe is on the other foot? When you have a customer who is having a little bit of a hard time, maybe having a bad month or a bad couple of months, car is in the shop or some sort of unexpected expense, how much flexibility do you give in those kind of moments? Because you can't ask for that kind of flexibility if you're not willing to offer it yourself. But on the flip side, if you're able to do those kind of favors for customers when they really need them, they are so much more likely to be loyal to you for life. They'll give you that flexibility back. And so this is, I think, one of those things where you'll start off by understanding who your customers are. And I don't mean like as a group, I mean on an individual level. We have the technology now, we can do this. You can really say, I know who Jessica Kendall is. I can give her very personalized banking experience. So that's the first piece that I would say to start with. And the second piece is, again, demonstrate that flexibility, that understanding, that care that will allow you to become the kind of top of the mind. If I've got a million financial institutions that I can choose from, I'm going to stick with the one who really helped me out when I needed it. That memory, that personal connection is going to live for a very long time. And it's going to keep me from shopping around on a daily basis. Does somebody have a 0.5% interest rate that's better than yours, whatever that case may be. Loyalty is extremely important in this business, and people remember who helped them.
Yeah. Well, and we like to say like a bank is not just a depository for money anymore. It's a depository of your data and your trust. And if they trust you, they will use more of your products over time. And it creates that win-win scenario. Like if you help them when they need help, they will grow with you and be, like you said, a customer for life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know your book recommendation kind of ties into this theme a little bit. What book should people be reading right now?
So the book that I have just been finishing Fans First by Jesse Cole. It's a story, a business book written by the founder of the Savannah Bananas. If you're familiar with the Bananas at all, Jesse is actually the dude in the yellow tuxedo who acts as the MC for the entire game. And if you're new to the concept of the Savannah Bananas, yes, there is an actual MC of a baseball game. That is a role that he invented. So partly I like it because I always root for the MC. I always want more MC stories. But it's, baseball is a love of mine. I do a lot of coaching for youth baseball. And I think the book really speaks to, what's possible when you look at that user experience, right? The idea behind Fans First and behind the Savannah Bananas in general was to take something really stodgy and something that kind of put a lot of people to sleep. And I'm talking about Major League Baseball here. It's a slow game. It's a game even for fans. Sometimes it can be difficult to make yourself watch 162 games a season. They really came in and said, how can we make this more fun? What do people actually want here? And there's some really good recommendations around how to look for opportunities to delight people, to offer them something that is going to keep them coming back. And then the really high level thesis is that by creating fans, you create this business resiliency. You create this connection that goes beyond a business relationship and actually starts to become a human relationship. And so it's a really good read. I think there are a lot of places where there's some pretty direct tie-ins to what goes on in financial services. Obviously, it is an entertainment industry, right? The baseball industry is an entertainment industry. The financial services industry is not. There are some things that you can and want to do in the context of how do I get more people in the stadium that you absolutely do not want to do in the context of how do we serve our customers more effectively from a financial services standpoint. But one of the things that really speaks out to me, that one of the first chapters is about looking for friction and eliminating friction, both in terms of these kind of macro frictions. This idea, baseball is 3 hours long. That's a long commitment. How can we get, a 7-year-old to sit still, down to these kind of micro areas where there's friction, looking at what's the ticket purchasing experience like? What is it like waiting in line? What is it like, actually going to the different food vendors throughout the stadium? All of these things are things which they've spent a lot of time thinking about. And you can see that in terms of the popularity that they have. It's a massive organization. It's growing. They're doing a national tour right now, selling out stadiums all across the US. So to go from, a tiny little small market minor league baseball team into something with this kind of national reach and national acclaim it's an incredible story. And there are a lot of business lessons that you can take out of it. So I would recommend people who are baseball fans to read it. People who aren't baseball fans still read it anyway. As I said, I like baseball a lot. I have to give the coach mug. This is one I just got from my kids. The season just wrapped up. I teach kids to hit and steal. I am biased when it comes to baseball, but it is a very fine read.
But even in how you're coaching the kids, one of your goals was to make sure they all wanted to come back and play again next year. And so it's like, how do you create that experience that keeps people coming back? And I think that applies to baseball and to banking, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And there's some things in baseball that are really difficult to learn and really slow. We had to have a practice with 8-year-olds on where is the force out when you are running, how do you freeze on a fly ball? And all these little rules are so boring to teach kids. So I made sure that after we did that one, which they did learn a lot, by the way, we actually did get a lead runner out twice this season. Super proud of that for 8 years old. But I followed that up with a water balloon batting practice. We spent some time in the last practice of the season just chewing sunflower seeds and spitting the shell out. I think this is a part of baseball that you have to know as well, but this is the fun part, right? So there's this idea that you balance the responsibility with the fun and you keep kids engaged, you keep them wanting to come back. Financial services, maybe we don't need so much of the fun side of it. Maybe there's other ways that you can keep people coming back, but at the same time, that little bit of extra that can go a really long way.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you imagine if we all were fans of the financial institutions we use and not just customers? It would make such a
Yeah.
difference, right?
Yeah, if when you talk to people and say, what do you think of your financial institution? Most people have a view that is kind of similar to how we view our members of Congress. Most people say, I like my member of Congress, but I think Congress as a whole is a disaster. Most people would have the same kind of response. I think financial institutions as a whole, I don't really trust them. My financial institution is okay, right? And so imagine if you could take that my FI is okay to actually, I really like mine. When people are talking about these horror stories, here's how my bank treated me. If somebody else can say, actually, you should consider this bank because this is my organization and they really take care of me. People don't talk that way about their banks, or at least in very rare cases. That type of motivation, that type of energy can be really powerful. And especially in an age where it's so easy to share these types of stories, where one positive interaction can absolutely go viral in the same way that one really negative interaction can absolutely go viral. So if you think about every engagement with a customer as an opportunity to create a story, what types of stories do you want there going on about your organization? And it's pretty easy to see from that standpoint.
Yeah, totally. And like you said, that negative experience could cause a lot of harm in today's age where everyone can share whenever they want. And it's so much easier to switch these days, too. You aren't beholden to the branches available in your town. You can join any bank anywhere.
Yeah, and I think many people are, especially younger people, are kind of building their own bank, right? They're having multiple accounts at different organizations, accounts with different functions at different organizations. How much cash do I have sitting on the sidelines in Venmo versus in my checking account versus in my investment accounts? Who is providing all of these things for me? In most cases, it is not just one financial institution. My grandma used to do all of her banking with the exact same bank, and it was they had a local branch. She wouldn't even go to a different branch of the bank that she liked. She would go to the same branch every time. That was her bank in her mind. And we're a really long way away from that type of customer loyalty, that idea that, these people are my people. And I think this is where, so many of these financial institutions are trying to recreate that either digitally or either, community banks expanding into an online space and broadening what the term community actually can mean. But this is an area where every single financial institution is going to be spending a lot of time fighting to be top of wallet, to have the most assets under management. It's an area where there's a ton of choice and a ton of different reasons people are making those choices. And so there's a lot at stake when it comes to who is going to actually come out on top and which brands are going to resonate and actually do a good job of pulling people in and keeping those people happy, loyal customers.
Well, I just ordered my copy of Fans First. Halfway through it, so I'll keep reading. And for everybody else, be sure to check it out. And Greg, thanks for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on.